Hailing from California, it's Psystorm Silky.
When is that going to become its own country? Come on, California. Just break off already. Pull a Bugs Bunny and, like, saw away from the rest of the U.S. It's time. It's time.
Create their own new WCS region, or I guess EPT region.
Heck, why not, man?
They have a couple of good players over there, you know, Silky and Estrella as the representatives.
Sure, why not? I like the pylon block here, or the fake pylon block from Neeb. Now, Penky, I need you to talk to me about what's been going on with Zerg players, because if you remember, you remember, 2 or 3 years ago, if there was a Protoss probe in your natural, you would fight that thing for like 30 seconds, like trying to poke it and prod it and push it away so you can get your natural down. And I feel like just in the last year or two, Zerg players have just started going, oh no, all right, anyway, and putting it in the third base, putting the natural in that third location. Has there been a seismic shift in what Zerg players are thinking, or is it just something that I've never noticed before because I'm dumb and bad at StarCraft?
It's really just kind of an example of, like, it's just, I guess you could call it StarCraft 2 power creep. It's just the Zerg players getting better. Because, like, back in the day, like, back at the very beginning of Legacy of the Void, right, the reason why blocking that natural expansion was so strong is that all of a sudden Zergs are like, okay, I had to take my third base, and now you have 2 Adepts, and I don't know how to deal with this. How help? Whereas, like, nowadays, Zergs have been like, all right, wait, you can actually deal with Adepts pretty easily if you just take your third. So, rather than wasting 30 seconds fighting the probe, let's just go take the third. It's really just sort of a sign of, if a Zerg player does this, they're pretty comfortable of being able to defend any kind of the standard early pressure without needing to have the creep connecting to the bases. So, that's just generally the reasoning for the shift, I would think. And in the meantime, Neeb is going to be chronoing out that Adept. You know, Protoss is still trying to capitalize on that third base location because it still is a little harder to defend than the natural. So, yeah, might as well try.
Absolutely. I love that probe from Neeb very early. Still gets a full scout, right? Sees the gas taken from Silky, gets a timing on that spawning pool, and does in fact confirm that third base is up and running. So Neeb, with a full slew of information on his opponent, should now be able to move in to what he feels most comfortable in to try and pressure this third base. And I really like the choice from Neeb. He's going, of course, for Stargate. The rush distance on Pillars of Gold, or the distance on Pillars of Gold between the main and the third does seem like an awful lot to me. I know it's about the same as some of the other large maps, but it is quite a run, especially if that natural isn't connected with creep just yet. So if that first Oracle pops out from Neeb sooner rather than later, correction, the first Void Ray pops out from Neeb sooner rather than later, it's a chance that Silky could have troubles driving it back, but Neeb's just going to drive away the Overlord and look for some easy, quick value from that first Void Ray.
So the other day, Grant and I were casting Neeb versus Namshar on this map, and I thought that this was purely because Namshar proxied a hatch in Neeb's natural, but Neeb just made 5 Void Rays and went. It didn't work. But, like, I wonder if, whenever I see a Void Ray first, especially since Neeb's shown that on this map before, part of me is just like, is he just gonna do that again? But it looks like he just wanted to get the Void Ray out first, just to get a little bit of pressure on with the Overlords, and is just going to be going into an Oracle behind this. Now, Neeb, though, he's always been a fan of the Sky Toss. It's not like he does it every single game or anything, but even as back as the beginning of Legacy of the Void, he was already a bit of an aficionado with the Sky Toss. So,
oh sure,
I wouldn't be too surprised to see. Yeah, Fleet Beacon. All right, so he's going to be going into more Void Rays.
Excellent. There's the Fleet Beacon. So, as I often say when I see that Fleet Bacon going down, get your griddles ready, chat, because there's some Fleet Bacon heading your way. Second Stargate out now for Neeb, and you're calling Mass Void Ray off of this. Is that correct, Pengy?
Oh, he'll go into carriers eventually. I just feel like Void Rays, especially given how good they are these days, are a nice sort of middle transition. Back in the day, if you wanted to go Sky Toss, it would always be especially at the very beginning of Legacy. I feel like I keep talking about the beginning of Legacy these days today, but you know, the original meta, the original macro meta was like, all right, you'd go 2 Stargates, Phoenixes, and then you'd go into Sky Toss if you wanted to do that. Whereas nowadays, I mean, you can still do that. Phoenixes are still very, very good units, but Void Rays are so much better now, and they give you a little bit more safety, that I would assume that to be the middle ground, but it looks like it's just straight carriers from Neeb, and that actually has me wondering about the other weird build that he did against Namshar, which actually did work. He just made 2 carriers, went across the map and harassed with them while going double robo. There's a robo. Okay, okay, this is the 2 carrier harass.
So, Protoss players, sharpen your pencils, get out your legal pads, and start taking some notes. Because this is going to be what Neeb goes for. And I believe I saw the game that you're talking about, and I think I saw a similar build that he did in a different game as well. So you open up with 2 carriers, and then you're done. No more carrier production unless the game goes super late. And out of the 2 robos, you start adding on, is it disruptors out of the robos? Or you just go straight immortal?
He's just going for a single robo. It's possible I'm misremembering that other game. But yeah, I mean, he's going to go into Blinkstalker Immortal, or maybe like Charge Lot Immortal. Just your standard ground composition. Just immortal heavy. But the thing about this, right, it looks really dumb, and most Zerg players, if they haven't been on the receiving end of this or seen it work, would also think it looks really dumb. And then it arrives, and as the Zerg player, you go, why is he sending 2 carriers across the map? And then the carriers hit, and you go, oh wait, I don't actually have anti-air. And then everything dies. So there's a lot of queens here. We'll see how Silky deals with it. Namshar did not deal with it. He just kind of folded. And I'm wondering, I'm sure that Silky watched that game. I'm sure that he's maybe a little bit better prepared. He's got a lot of queens here. And it looks like he's not going to be suffering quite as much damage. But queens aren't really the most mobile. The carriers can just go into the main, and that's what they're going to do.
I was just about to say, these queens pushing the edge of creep, which is great, being little Lewises and Clarks out exploring the wilderness here by the 4th base. Silky is going to try and put some pressure on the 3rd base here. Nice save, shield battery overcharge from Neeb. Not going to lose a whole lot there. The Lings will be pushed back, and now these carriers from Neeb, as you said, can go straight up into the main where there ain't nothing. 4 Spore Crawlers, but a little bit out of position.
Actually, yeah, but this actually looks like Silky knew exactly what was coming. It looks like really good prep work from him. Still really good focus fire here onto the drones. It's going to allow Neeb to get a little bit of damage. But this is a colossally huge investment going into this many carriers. Losing the Spire really sucks. I mean, he's not losing the carriers either, so that's very important to note. He's not even losing that many interceptors, but it looks like Silky practiced for this. He knows what's going on. He's got plenty of spores. Spores are going to continue dealing with the interceptors, but still, look at the focus fire. Just like Neeb focus firing so many drones down. Just not even caring about the AI auto-targeting, because, you know, auto-targeting the spores doesn't matter if you're not giving the carriers a chance to auto-target.
Yeah, really well controlled by Neeb. It's one of those little tiny micro things that pros do that the rest of us just struggle with so much sometimes. But man, that looked really clean from Neeb. So as you said, Silky probably prepared for this, but goodness gracious, Neeb getting about as much damage as he could do. Now, I'm going to ask you, Pengy, if you were a Zerg player and you lost 14 drones to 2 carriers, would you feel like you did okay, or would you feel a bit like you've been taken advantage of and you really are feeling behind in this game?
I mean, honestly, it's hard, right? Because I've only seen this build once, so I still don't really know about the calcs for it. But for me, I look at this and I think to myself, all right, you know what? Silky's got 82 workers. And it sucks to lose that many workers without killing either of the carriers. I mean, he killed off a lot of interceptors, but 23 interceptors, actually. I really don't think Silky did that badly, because you have to also consider how much the carrier transition, or the carrier choice, delayed the rest of the tech here for Neeb. So even though he found the damage, he kept the carriers alive, I think Neeb's going to be he'll feel very okay with that. He saw the number of spores that he forced out. I'm sure Neeb feels fine with it. I'm sure Silky feels like that could have gone a lot worse as well. I don't think either of the players is going to be too upset with how that went.
It's one of those weird engagements in StarCraft where it's like, who won that engagement? Who won that engagement? And the answer is, nobody, really. It was fine. It was fine for both sides.
Interesting Baneling run by coming in towards the 3rd base. Let's see how much this is going to be able to get done. The answer is a pylon.
Rainlings in the main? No, that's just a Overseer. Never mind, I got really excited. Thought I missed a Dropper Lord earlier. Everything fine, though, right now for Neeb, who's starting to push across the map. Storm is finished up, of course, and he does have a handful of Templar out on the maps out on the field right now. In fact, when I say a handful, I mean exactly 5 Templar out on the map, and they're building up a ton of energy right now. If he can land some good storms on the army of Silky right now, because Silky has no Carapace upgrades, right? So those storms will tear him apart.
Yeah, and of course, Storm ignores the Carapace. So,
oh, it does. You're right. I'm so sorry. Yeah, goodness.
Yeah, but it's still a big deal that he doesn't have Carapace, because fast attacking units like carriers, even though there's only 2 carriers right now, those shred units that don't have Carapace upgrades. So especially with the Storm sort of softening up those units, it's going to be a really, really difficult hold. But Silky, he's not going for a turtley composition, but he is a Zerg player who feels very comfortable in the late game. I've seen many, many, many games of Silky in DreamHack tournaments and WCS tournaments just chill and say, you know what, if you want to take this late game, I will take this late game with you, and I will play the turtle game. It doesn't really look like that's his game plan this time around, just because he's going for more of a Ravager-centric composition. He's not really rushing and playing Infestors. A wall of spores, even though he has quite a few of them. But we may yet see him go that way. He hasn't been trying to be too aggressive, but it's all about this hold for now. Can he actually hold this initial army? Good Biles, pick off an Archon to start.
Yeah, and here we go, the big engagement. Keep an eye also on that run-by with the Lings going into the 4th base of Silky now. Huge storms from Neeb there, zoning Silky up. It looks like the storms are all gone now. I don't see a whole lot more. Okay, one more maybe. Oh, there are a couple in the back here. Never mind. Still some storms available for Neeb, and that's going to be rough for Silky to push through here. Silky not getting much done at Neeb's 3rd base. Only about 4 drones going down so far for Silky, but there's a lot more on the way. These Archons still in really good shape.
And the production tab doesn't really look that promising for Silky. Just Lings at the minute. Now a few Roaches finally joined, but the attacking Lings do actually come back, reinforced just enough to be able to take out some more of the ground units. The problem is that there's really nothing to take out these 2 carriers. Finally, some Corruptors joined the fray. But like, are 2 Corruptors enough? It doesn't look like they are either. The Archons applying a lot of damage to them, and they're going to go down too. The 2 carriers in the sky reigning supreme. GG. And it happened again, Creighton. That build doesn't look like it should work, but it seems really good.
You're like a mad scientist whose chief rival has just unlocked some secret of science, and you're up like at 1 o'clock in the morning with your paper in your hand and your hair being pulled out. You're like, how does he do it? What is this?
You're not wrong.
I love it. Well, Neeb was doing a lot of things. It wasn't just the 2 carriers, although that was a really interesting start to the match. If you saw at the very end there, he was... Oh, Pengy, are you offline again?
Sorry, my SC2 just crashed.
How could you?
I tried to change the graphic settings, and my SC2 crashed.
That's fine. We'll get into the game when we can. I was just going to say at the end of that game, not only was Neeb putting pressure on the 4th base there of Silky, but he was also getting pressure on the 3rd base. He had some zealots up there that were taking down the 3rd base. The 3rd base actually fell just as he GG'd out. He was putting pressure on multiple locations, so Neeb was doing a really nice job controlling the battlefield, not just in the main engagement that we were watching on screen there, but a couple other engagements happening at his 4th base, at the 3rd base of Silky, just everywhere on the map, allocating his resources very accurately. So, well done there by Neeb all around in that game. It wasn't, you know, just that one crazy build. So much more to talk about.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The carriers initially, I don't think they put Neeb super far ahead. But it's also just like, even when you talk about the carriers in the army later on, Neeb was getting air upgrades. He had +1 for his air attacks at that point in time when the push ended up happening. But it's really weird, right? Because you're used to doing mental calculations as the Zerg player. It's like, all right, this is how I deal. Like, this is how many units I need to deal with. Like, this many Archons. This is the kind of Baneling count I need. All that is going on in your brain. All of that just kind of gets thrown out of whack when there's just 2 carriers in the mix. So, like, if you look at the army composition that Silky was going for, he had a fantastic army to deal with that ground army, but he didn't really have very much anti-air except for the Biles and the Queens. So, that's one of the reasons we saw the carriers survive until the very, very end of the game. Neither of them ever ended up dying. I'm actually kind of curious how many kills they got. But I don't think we'll see Neeb bust that out again. Probably not something that he's planning on making a super standard thing with every single game. But I mean, if it worked, I mean, here's another weird thing, right? Sorry, one sec. Like, you could tell by the way Silky played that he prepared for this build. Right. And it still worked. So maybe Neeb does think, let's do it again.
I'll do it again. That would definitely be an interesting choice here. If he goes 2-base carrier again, I honestly would be a bit surprised because one of my good friends, who's the world's largest trap fan and will remain anonymous, was talking to me about how who was talking about how Protoss have to be in tournaments right now. And while they have a bit more flexibility than other races, he was saying largely most Protoss players, the pro level, feel like they basically have to be prepared with between 3 and 10 builds and mix them up randomly and execute each one differently every game to surprise their opponent and keep them off their rhythm. Because if your opponent knows your build, then it's very easy for them to fight it out. And granted, he's a bit of a Protoss apologist, so I can understand why he feels that frustrated. But I feel like maybe Neeb would be a little reticent to bring the build out a second time. But you know what? If he does, that would be just glorious. Let's see here in game number 2 on Eternal Empire LE. And we are back. Spawning in that top right-hand side in the red, representing Psystorm Gaming. It is Silky.
Facing off against the American representative. It's going to be the blue Protoss player for Team Neeb. Neeb is like, it's a very, very tiny nitpick on Neeb, and it's not a criticism, because it's a good thing to do. Pylon blocking the natural is a good thing to do, but like, I get really annoyed when I watch Neeb play against Zergs, because he always sends a worker out a little bit earlier than everyone else, and my brain immediately thinks that we're going to see a cool cannon rush, and then I remember that it's Neeb, and he's actually just sending a probe out.
Disappointed.
Disappointed. My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Oh, jeez. Trying to think of the...
Okay, he did a 2-carrier harass in the last game. I think that's creative enough for...
Yeah, we can't...
Cannon rush.
What more can we ask? I feel like Neeb's like spinning a plate and juggling a ball and like balancing a cat on his forearm, and he's like, is this not enough? I'm doing everything I can to entertain you.
Where are the flame hoops that you're not jumping through, Neeb?
Oh, jeez. Well, Neeb going for a pretty conservative opening this time, at least so far. Gateway, Cybercore on the low ground, that Nexus down pretty early as well. This will be spotted by Silky, whose Overlord just going to poke barely in far enough to confirm that the Nexus is down, and then I'll move back to that Overlord observation spot. You know, I'd love to see Silky going for something a little more aggressive this build. Neeb, I feel like, is one of those players who, if you let him do exactly what he wants to do, he's just going to roll you over. Exhibit A last game, right? Where even if you're prepared for it, if he gets to have his way, he's going to do fairly well. So we see him opening Stargate again. Pengy, in your professional opinion, would Silky be served well by doing some sort of early pressure here to try and stop Neeb from whatever Neeb shenanigans he's going to do?
So it's a little weird when we talk specifically about Silky, because he's so comfortable in the macro game. He does all in every now and then, as all players should do, but he's much more comfortable in the macro game. So it's a little bit weird to advocate for doing something that you don't practice that much. Okay. But in general, I think you're right, Neeb. Every year it feels like this is less true, but it's still true to an extent, where Neeb can lose to random stuff. Like he has the ability, like he has the ability to lose to players that you really think he should not be losing to if they just do something really weird. Because, you know, the Neeb bot can't compute sometimes. And I think back to times like when Chan beat him at WESG North America by proxying 2 hatcheries in his main base.
Yeah, sure.
Or like when Volts 2-1'd him by 12 pool nidusing twice.
Huh.
Like, if you like, that seems to be the most reliable way just in general to deal with Neeb. But for Silky, he's just so comfortable in the macro game, and he spends so much of his time practicing macro that maybe it is more beneficial for him to just focus on the fundamentals and on the core mechanics.
Quick note here: Silky has not seen that Stargate, which means he's not really prepared for the Oracle. He will be able to drive it away. Luckily, some Queens in position there, but the Void Ray will pick off his Scouting Overlord. So now there's no more scouting left. Not a bad start for Neeb. But a little surprising that Silky's, if you saw Silky's vision there, his Overlord did not even see that Stargate until the Oracle was already in his 3rd base. So good defense, despite not knowing anything.
With Neeb at this point, though, I feel like, especially on the current patch, just prepare for Oracle.
Yeah.
Like, he goes Stargate so much. And a lot of the time, like, we've seen a little bit of a change-up. He went Void Ray first last game. This game, he went the Oracle first. You know, just a little bit of a split through, but I've seen it. I think in every single Neeb game that I've cast this season, he's gone for a Stargate opening.
Makes sense. Silky's doing, of course, the right moves behind this. Lair Tech on the way. Roach Warren just finishing up. Gonna lose one drone here, but the Void Ray pushed away. But I do like where Silky's at right now. 3 gates, Roach, Lair on the way. Getting everything in pretty decent time and droning quite a bit. Not over-droning, of course, but yeah, I think he's all right. Neeb behind this transitioning, not into Glaives, as I thought it might be. Very often I'll see Protoss players transition from that early Stargate where it doesn't do a lot, and they'll say, okay, well, my Stargate didn't do much. Let's try a Glaives push. Instead, Neeb shifting straight into Charge Lot Immortal with +1 on the way. A very powerful mid-game build order here.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one from Neeb because it's 6 gateways. Oh, never mind, he's adding more, so it does look like he's going to be getting very aggressive. I was going to say 6 gateways gives him enough production to apply quite a bit of pressure, but also it's cheap enough. I guess you're saving enough money by not going super hardcore in the gate, so you can still be very, very economic. But yeah, I mean, we've seen him, he's not all-inning or anything off of 2 bases, but this is a lot of gateways coming in, and it does look like he's planning on, at the very least, focusing on a gateway-centric composition. I think it's more likely that he's going to be gearing up for a little bit of a push. Maybe not trying to end the game, but a bit of a push to try to deny this 4th base from Silky at the very least.
Yeah, and we said this last time, but Eternal Empire, really, really dangerous 4th base. It's wide open space there. Very easy, mostly for Zerg players, I usually think of, but also for Protoss players. If you've got a big gateway army there, land some 6 storms on anybody that's fighting you. And wow, Neeb really is just going for it here. Void Ray out, the Warp Prism tailing right behind. It looks like he really does want to put pressure on this 4th base and stop Silky from expanding. Silky already in position, put 4 sentries. That's an awful lot of force fields available already for Neeb.
It is, but Silky has not over-droned here, as you mentioned earlier. He's just at 65. Really good force fields to start, but Silky goes for the micro on the, or the micro to the right-hand side, but more good force fields coming on down. And Silky, while he didn't over-drone, he may have just lost a little bit too much as far as the front goes. He may have to retreat to the high ground and let Neeb have this force. Still, manages to pick up a couple of the Zealots there on the south side. And so far, the Hydra's coming in to assist. 17 more Roaches in production. I actually think that Silky is going to be totally fine here. Neeb, though, already up to 68 workers, getting that +2 on the way. He's got, not Storm yet, but he's got the Templar Archives to be able to produce Archons. So, Neeb going to be disengaging here, starting up that Storm upgrade. And I guess trying to apply a little bit more pressure here with this Warp Prism heading on towards the main.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty big win for Neeb, forcing out that many Roaches, which is not really what you want against Charge Lot Archon. Not too bad, really, for Neeb. Maybe Silky a bit more nervous than he should be. This Void Ray should be recalled from Neeb. Could stay there for a while. It's not under any immediate danger. But, ooh, Silky setting up for an attack on the south side here, just as his +1 missile attacks is finishing up. And he's got that Grooved Spines on the way for the Hydras. His Hydra count is pretty decent here. 9 Hydras. Not the most in the world, but not an overcommitment. And this 3rd base for Neeb is going to be under duress. I think Neeb's going to be just fine, though. Look at these stasis wards already.
Yeah, I do like the bait there on the right-hand side and on the left, but still losing a lot of lanes to that stasis ward. Silky might be getting a little bit overzealous here. I thought that this was generally intended to deny a potential 4th base, but so far he takes down the Zealots. The Storm is not yet done. Keep that in mind. It's still 5 seconds away, but it is about to finish. But he's losing a lot of the Templar. 2 remain. That's still a couple of Storms to do a bit of chunky damage, and we are going to see that first Storm go down. Is this enough for Silky to push through? I don't think so, but I feel like he can probably disengage and kite away a couple of the Zealots. Overall, Silky will be okay with that. He's able to put on enough pressure to at least deny a 4th base for a while. I mean, didn't force a cancel or anything, but, you know, Neeb's feeling a little bit too pressured to expand right now, so still a bit of a win in that regard. We do have 4 Zealots being warped in to head towards that 4th base of Silky, and so far there's not really much to defend this. Good pull away, though. Nice reaction time by Silky. Not going to lose too much there at all.
Yeah, Silky responding very well to that. Of course, he saw that Warp Prism ages ago and finally brought his army all the way back. Neeb's timing's just a little bit off there. It would have been nice to get that Warp in, of course, while the entire army of Silky was engaged at his own 3rd base. But he will clean up the drones, or the Zerglings here, and go for that build, that base, that 4th base, at the 6 o'clock position. Silky, meanwhile, grabbing his own 5th base right across the map at the 12 o'clock. And wow, again, pretty early Hive Tech out here for Silky, or at least a reasonably timed Hive Tech here out for Silky. I know it's a little early to call, Pengy, but what are you seeing as far as end-game vision for Silky right now that's going to pair well with this Hydra Lurker comp?
Well, the Hive this early, I think, is just to get going on those Lurker upgrades, because really, without the Lurker upgrades, they fall off extremely quickly. You really need those Hive Tech upgrades.
Okay.
So that's definitely going to be the initial plan. I would imagine he's wanting to get a few Vipers in there as well. Those supplement the army composition very, very nicely. One kind of questionable thing in my mind is that Silky hasn't gone for upgrades beyond +1, which I think is a little bit questionable. It might just be because he doesn't feel like he has the gas. He may feel like he really needs those lurkers up in order to hold any kind of potential push from Neeb, which he is gearing up for. We have a bit of a Zealot run by over on the left-hand side, while the main army comes down on the east. And so far, Silky looks to be positioning himself quite well. There's just a single Observer here, but no Overseer with this army, so the Observer is not going to be threatened too much. And this is a lot of Archon Immortal, and in come the Zealots towards this 5th base, and they're going to be able to get rid of this. I don't think there's anything there to be able to defend. Yeah,
a handful of Roaches and Hydras coming, but these Zealots will hit pretty hard here. Meanwhile, a little engagement over at the 3 o'clock as well. Some great storms from Neeb there. He's been landing some beautiful storms, not just in this game, but in game number 1 as well. You know, it's so interesting to see a Protoss player who doesn't bother to waste storms just to deposition your opponent's army, right? A Protoss player who can get those storms and make sure they actually do damage every single storm. Really worth it. So nicely done from Neeb here, but the transition from Neeb is now imminent. Griddle's out, kids.
Yeah, and again, we're seeing Neeb just seems to be one step ahead. He's already going in towards this Stargate switch, although Silky immediately throws down the double Spire, so he's not too far behind in that regard. +2 on the way now for Silky, as well as +1 Carapace, which is also going to be very, very important against the inevitable carrier transition. And behind this, Neeb's army his army supply might be lower, but if you look at the actual units, there's no filler units in this army. It's just big chunky units. I guess there's a Stalker. That's a little bit of a filler unit, but well, and again, it's another decent trade there by Neeb. He pokes up that ramp, picks up a couple of lurkers. Neeb has lost 3,000 less resources over the course of this game compared to Silky, who is really, I don't really want to say struggling. He's doing perfectly fine, but it definitely looks like Neeb just getting the slight better side of these engagements so far.
And isn't this what we talked about at the beginning of the game, Pengy, is that Neeb's one of the players who it really behooves you, it really is very valuable for you to try and put pressure on him early to disrupt his builds. You can't let him just start building 3 carriers and not get away with it. And so far, Silky's been unable to poke and prod and find that valuable damage that he really needs in the early game to put Neeb off this late game. Once these carriers come out, I just don't know that there's going to be that much from Silky to deal with it here. The Hydralisk count, very low, only at 12, which against 3 carriers is good, but once you're up to 5, 6 carriers, not so much. And he'll spot the carrier transition coming. Corruptors out. Are Corruptors the right choice against carriers these days?
Corruptors are always really, really nice against carriers. The main issue is obviously microing around those storms and not flying into the Archons. It really just comes down to control. A couple of Tempests coming in, though, for Neeb as well. It looks like Neeb is actually gearing up to, I would assume, counter what he expects to be a very Turtley style from Silky, which is exactly what Silky is going for. 12 spores on the way. This is kind of what I was talking about last game, where Silky is very, very comfortable in this kind of a super turtle, super long game, where you go for a massive wall of spores, where you have some lurkers on the ground, but also a plethora of Vipers and also Infestors and plenty of other units. And that kind of style, which I personally have never been good at controlling because I don't use enough control groups to make that work. But Silky's very, very good at this kind of a style, and we've seen him beat Neeb with this before. We've seen him beat players like Showtime with this kind of a style. He's extremely comfortable in the late game, and we'll just have to see who plays it out better. It's a very, very hard task on both sides. You're just microing so many different control groups, so many different types of units, and it looks like we're going to be in this game for quite a while, Creighton.
Excellent. Good. I'm glad that I definitely don't have to pee right now. That would make me really uncomfortable for the rest of this cast, for sure. Well, the good news is, for those of you who missed the last patch, Void Rays were the talk of the town, but they also, the Blizz team also slipped in a little upgrade for those Tempests, and I wish I could remember exactly the name of it. It's, Seismic Destabilizers, I believe, for the Tempests, which has 2 really interesting effects. One, the Tempests do more damage against buildings, which means they're able to pick down the Spore Crawlers much more quickly. But secondly, and most importantly, the Tempest shots turn from that blue energy ball into this, like, flaming orange, dope-ass, scary-looking, like, meteor that rains from the skies.
Yep.
So I really hope...
Tectonic
Destabilizers, thank you. I really hope that Neeb does go for the Tectonic Destabilizers, if nothing else, just to show off that incredible new art that we've got. Because Tempest shooting orange bolts is terrifying.
I would put a lot of money on the fact that he will go for them, because the main benefit of that is specifically this situation where being able to shell away at those spores, pick them off a little bit more effectively is very, very nice. And the upgrade, I mean, we're going to get to a point, we're already getting very, very close to the point where Neeb is going to be feeling like, you know, I have 1 trillion minerals and 1 trillion gas. Let's just get all the things. And we already see, oh my god, oh, this is so dirty. Oh, so many shield batteries setting up, getting ready to just plant those Tempests on top of the shield batteries and just fire away. And it's going to be really, really difficult for Silky to deal with. And we talked about this a little bit earlier. Silky's lost about 3,000 more resources. That doesn't sound like a big deal, especially in a really long game. But a lot of these games will come down to who mines out first and who runs out of that bank first. So really, especially if we get into like the 30, 40 minute mark, the way to tell who's ahead is to look at who's lost more resources.
Yes, it is. Flux Veins on the way for those. Go on.
Sorry, go ahead. That being said, Silky is actually getting on top of this a little bit early. He's going to try to mine from this 9 o'clock base. This is one of Neeb's bases. If Silky can mine like 3,000-4,000 resources from here, that's going to give him a pretty big advantage as we go later and later into the game.
Yeah, you're right. The more aggressive economic plays from Silky, pushing further out on the map. I was just about to ask you, what happens when Neeb has 1 fewer base than the Zerg player? Does it just mean he has to trade that much more efficiently, or does it mean it's going to be really difficult for him to actually win? By the way, Tempest upgrade happening. Yes, tectonic destabilizers, let's go!
Yeah, I mean, both of those things are really true, because it is going to be that much harder for him to win, purely because he has to trade that much more efficiently, right? So, not having those resources, it's going to be something that he doesn't know about right now, but if he notices that Silky is taking that base, that's going to have to be his top priority. He's going to need to clean that up. And now, with an army like this, it's very possible that Neeb is able to trade efficiently enough to be able to win regardless of that base being Silky's, but Silky is a good player in the late game. I've said it a couple times already. I don't see Silky running into a wall of shield batteries and trying to fight Neeb, but we already see these Tempests doing some work, and this is before the tectonic destabilization upgrade is done. Cool. So once the orange cannon is ready, once the Cheetos are ready to fire, oh god, 2 Vipers going down as well. This is also so important. It's going to come down mostly to just who's able to be more efficient in the X units versus Tempest wars.
Now, one thing I want to point out here is that there are still 13 lurkers on the map for Silky, and that's a metric crap. No, it's North America. Sorry, it's an imperial crap ton of lurkers. Not only are lurkers expensive, they eat up, as you said earlier, I think the previous game, they eat up tons of supply, which is going to make them just a little frustrating to deal with. Do you like Silky's choice to leave these lurkers on the field and burrow and wait? Or do you feel like he should at this point start trading out? I mean, he's got 5,000 minerals in the bank. Should he start trading out for something a little bit more effective against these Tempest and carriers?
So the lurkers are essentially a hallmark of this super turtley play, right? Because they're what prevents Neeb from going, oh, there's nothing on the ground. I'm going to warp in 20 Archons and walk in and win. Now, the reason why it's okay is that effectively, while he's missing out on quick maps, 49 supply of potential anti-air. Wow. You know what he does have? He has 23 spore crawlers, which do not cost supply and are pretty good anti-air. So, and especially because they don't cost gas, right? They are a very effective way to sort of supplement the air army that isn't as big on Silky's side. And of course, with the abduct, you can force the Protoss to engage into a position where those spores are going to be able to fire. So the lurkers are a pretty important way of holding Neeb back from any kind of potential tech switch. But Storm on Changelings is always fun. But yeah.
Oh, man. Well, upgrades finishing up here for both players. Neeb getting his +3 air armor, which is something I rarely see, except in these ultra late game. We see +3 air weapons and air carapace coming down for Silky as well. So both these players are going to be even on upgrades. It's just nice to see neither player forgetting their upgrades this game. Not going to be decided by a bit of a mistake. Now, Penky, you're fairly new to the B stream, right? You've only cast a few matches here with me a couple days ago and today, right?
I did a little bit last season as well, but not too much. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what you may not know here on is anybody who plays in the B stream. Oh, nice abducts, by the way. Oh, they're recalled Tempest. Goodness gracious.
Still though, three Tempests going down. It's pretty big.
Yeah. Well, and that ties into what I was going to talk about here on the B stream. While we've got a moment as players are sort of, posturing, what you may not know is that according to the official DreamHack rules, once a player reaches 5k minerals and 5k gas, they're legally required to put in a monocle into one of their eyes to represent their newfound wealth. So one thing you're going to see these players trying to avoid is getting up over the 5k mark, because then, of course, they have to put in their DreamHack monocle, and that's going to reduce their APM just a little
Neeb
bit.
just got up to 49.50, but he spent a bunch.
See,
Good call.
He's smart. He's very smart, because right now Silky's like, oh crap, if I get up to... And then the worst part is if they get up to 10k, they then have to put a monocle in each eye. So they have to wear 2 monocles at the same time. And that really slows you down, Pengy.
Pseudo glasses. So, Silky is doing a very cool thing that unfortunately is not relevant at this point in time. Silky has created 3 Ultra lists. So a little bit of trivia for you guys about the way AI works in this game. This is probably because Silky does not realize that there are only 3 carriers. Ultra lists are a pretty great way to counter carriers. Did you know that, Crate?
What? No.
I'm not actually joking. Because the way that, because what you do, and this is what Snoot used to do way back in the day when Snoot was pioneering this style, he would get 1, maybe 2 Ultra lists, because with them out in front, they base all of the carrier interceptors onto the Ultra list, which has a ton of armor and doesn't take that much damage. Especially if you have some queens behind transfusing, that gives valuable seconds to the air army, to the Vipers, to move forward and get a couple of abducts off before pulling on back and transfusing up those Ultra lists. So that's the game plan here. The problem is that they're not exactly a great answer to Void Rays or Tempests, which is the entire army of Neeb's Air Force.
Oh my gosh, this is wild. This is absolutely wild. Got some complaints in chat about my FPS, guys. I'm running StarCraft on ultra settings. I'm running like 4 programs at once. You can still see the games just fine. Don't complain.
I see a complaint in chat about how this is the slowest game ever. I will have you know, I had to pass Mana versus Firecake many years ago. It was a 3-hour game, so don't talk to me about how this is going to be a long game.
Oh yeah, this will be wild. My goodness, well here we go. A big storm onto those Corruptors on the north side. That's going to drive Silky back just a little bit. Neeb really trying to focus fire this down. You talked earlier about resources lost, and that resources lost count only growing right now for Neeb. 5-6k ahead of Silky.
Now, that is very true, and it's very important, but again, this base over on the 9 o'clock has been mining for many, many minutes. It's already getting to the point where in a couple of minutes, some of these mineral fields will be mining out, and that's money that Neeb will never have, which is a pretty big deal, and more importantly, it's gas that Neeb will never have. So that 5k, or I guess now 7k resource gap is definitely not something that's good for Silky, but it's not as big of a conundrum as it would be if he didn't have that 9 o'clock base. Oh god, the stain on the patch is so sad. Oh, he gets a lot of Templar though.
Yeah, he does grab a couple Templar.
Bomb goes down too.
Couple parasitic bombs.
Saw that there. The Ultras baiting out the few interceptors while the carriers came, or while the Corruptors came in. Little bit of a, it kind of worked. I don't know why he's thinking he tried more Ultras though. I feel like he just doesn't realize that there's not that many carriers in his army.
Yeah, I do think that's the mistake he's making right now. The carrier count it might look a little higher. Interceptors, I feel like, are hard to track, at least for me, when they're underneath that mothership, especially. Yep. So it's a little frustrating, I think, to try and figure this out. He even sends a drone out misidentifying where exactly Neeb's army is and the real danger that he's got. Wow, look at all of these Evo chambers ready for those Vipers. How many Vipers are on the map right now? He's got 3 Vipers.
Only 3,
okay.
which is not an amazing amount, but I mean, it is. If you're never losing the Vipers, it's fine. They have a ton of energy, 2 of them at least. So, actually, all of them have a lot of energy. So he does have plenty of abducts. And now we see Neeb positioning to counteract the 9 o'clock base. He's going to be taking Silky's 3 o'clock base. However, again, Silky's already mined out a decent amount of these minerals.
Yeah, huge engagements here. A lot of storms going down, but nice dodges so far by Silky. My goodness, this is hard to keep track of. A lot of Tempest shots going around here. Really nice parasitic bombs going off on these carriers, but it's not enough to kill them. And unfortunately, of course, Protoss units are going to regenerate those shields. And this is going to be, as you said, a very, very long game. But Neeb buying himself some more space and moving on, grabbing this 3 o'clock base to help him catch up on the minerals that he hasn't been mining from that 9 o'clock from Silky. The map has been split once again.
Okay, so I get what Silky is doing now with these Ultras. I mean, far be it from me to criticize Silky. He's a vastly better player than I am, but what he's doing is he's using the Ultras to zone and or kill the Templar if they don't pull back fast enough. which is allowing the Corruptors to come in and do some damage. I just don't know if it's worth the investment, because all of those ultras are so expensive.
Yeah, that's really strange. 4 on the map now. He's lost 6 already. My God. Jeez. The lurker count right now currently sitting at just the 1. So he's basically traded out all the lurkers for a couple more Ultralisks. And I guess 37 Corruptors. Goodness gracious.
Hey, do you want to play a game?
Go for it.
Without checking, how many cannons and how many shield batteries do you think are on the map?
45 cannons. No. 30 cannons and 45 shield batteries.
Oh, 46 shield batteries.
Yes!
So close.
And 39 cannons. I did really well.
Not too bad. That was quite good. I'm very impressed, Greg.
Oh, thank you so much. I've been practicing my StarCraft casting a little bit. This is great. Do you want to play a game? We can do a shot every time chat complains about my FPS.
Oh my God. No, I don't want to die. we've got a couple more tasks to go, Creighton.
That's...
we've got... I mean, this is going to be... We're getting to this interesting point in the game now as well, where Neeb has thrown away workers. Silky has not yet. I think that's totally fair, because Silky is the one who's going to be initiating fights on his terms, on the creep,
right
in front of the spore crawlers. So he doesn't need to throw away the workers just yet, because he doesn't need quite as large army supply as long as he's taking fights over those spore crawlers. That being said, I think he could use a little bit more in the way of spore crawlers. He's only got 22 at the minute. Which sounds silly, but I do think that he could use more. But eventually, especially as these bases continue to mine out, we are going to see the players throw away more and more workers and focus more and more on the air armies and just on army supply. Another mothership coming in. I guess there was a pickoff on that mothership that I missed. The first mothership that went down? All right, let's have a... This is a fun game as well. How many motherships do you think will die this game?
Oh man, that's so terrible to try and decide, because I'm not really sure how well the well, so there are only 3 Vipers out right now, right? So yeah, only 3 Vipers out right now, which means the Yoinks aren't going to be quite as numerous as Silky might want. So he doesn't really want to, I guess the mothership is the #1 target for the Yoinks on those Vipers, right?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to go with 3.
All right, I was gonna say 4. I like this. All right.
Okay, we're already at 1 now, so we're on #2 now coming out.
Oh my God, Silky's lost 14,000 more resources. That's good.
Yeah, Neeb has been playing. I feel like he's been playing this really, really well right now.
Silky's not pushing off creep very much, which he shouldn't be. That's good that he's not doing that. But he keeps going for like Ultralisks and Banelings as a way to clear out Templar, which is like, it's nice to do to give the Corruptors an opportunity to jump on, but if the Corruptors are only going to be picking off 2 or 3 Tempests and then retreating, it's just not worthwhile. I don't think you just make 25 more Banelings. That's so much gas, and we're going to be seeing that more and more. We already see it now a little bit. Silky's bank is a pretty large disparate. It's pretty disparate between the gas and the minerals. He's got 11,000 minerals, just 4,000 gas, and he's running low on gas. And we see even over to the left-hand side, some of these bases, some of these gas sizes are beginning to be mined out, and he doesn't really have that much more gas to work with. I'd say maybe another 3-4K for the rest of the game. So that leads to a total of 8,000. Neeb's got a lot more to work with, and that's going to be really, really hard for Silky to overcome.
Are you ready for photon cannons versus spine crawlers? Let's go, round 1. Ding, ding, ding. Oh yeah, baby dolls. That's coming in. It's just a distraction. There's a huge fight going down right now. Storms everywhere as the Corruptors pop in on top of the Tempest here. It looks like all the Overseers are going to go down. The Mothership is still alive, but not in this fight, I don't believe. And that was atrocious for Silky, diving straight in. And unfortunately for everybody, Neeb is way ahead now. Oh my gosh, that was a very, very odd fight.
1,000 resources, Creighton. Oh, and he recalls over to that 9 o'clock.
That's where the Mothership was.
But, I mean, at this point, so far ahead in the resources lost that even this extra base that Silky had for a while is not enough to deal with that. And I feel like Silky, I praised his patience and how patient he can be in these games. I really feel like this was not a good example of that. I feel like he played a little bit too aggressive, which I know probably sounds funny to some people watching because, 30 minutes into the game. But I really feel like, honestly, the best way to play this is never attack as Zerg. Like, you get a bunch of spines, and then you do what he was doing with the Viper Corruptor army. You would try to position yourself to pick off 1 or 2 Tempest to carriers here and there, but I think Silky really just threw away way too much money with Banelings and Ultralisks that I don't think really paid for themselves.
You know, very odd choices, I agree, from Silky here. With those Ultralisks especially, just a little strange, he is going to try and go for the push here. He does have 131 army supply, but man, you just can't fight into that with those really effective storms there from Neeb. And actually, Neeb's sitting only on 6 Templar right now, so he doesn't have that many storms available, but oh my gosh. These bases just getting destroyed here, Pengy. Is there any way that Silky can possibly come back in this?
I mean, if he plays the way that I was talking about, with just like turtling super hard, there's always a chance. As long as you have a little bit of money in the bank and you have that defensive position, there's always a chance, because it's very easy to, like, it's very easy for players, especially people who don't play at like Neeb level, even people like me. I'm guilty of this as well. Just be like, oh, carriers just a move, it's really easy. Like, it's extremely easy for the Protoss player here to overextend into a defensive position and just lose everything really poorly. So Silky is now at a position where he is hoping that happens, but the problem is I don't really think he's put himself in a position for that to happen when there's only 7 spores on the map and they're not even together. So there isn't really a place for him to try to force Neeb to engage into, right? Like, I don't know where Neeb would have to go in order to lose this fight. And the round coming in. We'll see if he's able to make something happen here. The Banelings are going to come in. They're not going to be able to deny the storms before they go off, though. It's a good abduct there on the mothership. We'll see if the Corruptors are good enough to take this out, but it's just too good of a composition. Neeb splitting his composition perfectly between Tempests to deal with the buildings, Carriers to deal with any kind of ground army that come in, and then just enough Void Rays to really shatter the Corruptor count if they stay too long.
Yep, and that's it. We see really interesting choice from Silky. Now going to Broodlords, I guess he's concerned about this growing ground army from Neeb here. Plenty of Immortals. What is this now? 5 Immortals, 7 Archons on the map. But I don't know if Broodlord Ultralisk is the way to go. Not just ever, but especially in this format. Oh man, 3rd Mothership on the way. But, jeez, I just feel like Silky's bleeding out little by little here. If we check the income advantage, we can see that Neeb is now way ahead for the first time in the last 15 minutes or so of this game. So
he's quite literally infinitely far ahead on the mineral income. He is not mining minerals. He has 1 drone distance mining gas, and that's his gas income. He has 28, now 32 gas in the bank. The problem here is Silky is basically banking on this Corruptor army being good enough to win. He's trying to put together an army that can sort of win an engagement and then snowball out of control and just push through, which I think at this point in time is probably his best bet. I just don't see a universe where it works, unfortunately.
Oh, jeez. How about you watch football? You watch football, Pengy? Excited for football season to start?
Not the one you're thinking about, but yes. I watch Grant football.
Oh, gross.
Wow, okay.
Do you follow F1? There was something crazy going on with F1 a while ago.
Nope. I like tennis. Tennis is real good.
How's Djokovic doing these days? He's still on form?
Yeah, he played pretty well in Cincy. He played well in the Cincinnati tournament that happened in New York.
Okay.
That was weird. I was very confused. They held the Cincinnati tournament in New York,
sure,
and still called it Cincinnati, which was a little bit weird.
Ah,
you know, he won. It was good.
We gotta give up the little things here in the time of COVID, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's doing well in the U.S. Open. I missed his last game. Yeah, he beat Struff yesterday. He's doing pretty well.
I'll tell you though, jeez, Pengy, this is one of the times that I'm so grateful to actually have a co-caster, because until you've casted one of these games solo, you don't really know the pain of how terrible it is to try and keep talking about StarCraft when there's literally no StarCraft happening. By the way, 3rd Mothership has gone down now, so I gotta hope this 4th one doesn't die, or else you're gonna win.
We need Neeb to just like send a mothership into the army. A good faith gesture asking for peace between worlds.
I mean, as you said,
nobody wants this war. We don't need violence.
As you said, the problem right now with Silky is he's got no gas in the bank. Literally long distance mining with 1 drone from 1 gas up here in the top side, which means
he actually has a lot of drones sitting at his whatever space. He could be distance mining with them. He's just choosing not to.
Oh, there he is. He's listening. 30 drones on 1 gas.
Turn off the stream, Nick.
And what's crazy is I think Pengy, this is actually like efficient mining because the distance that it's going to take these drones to get from the gas to the natural. Oh my god, this might actually be perfectly saturated right now at 28 out of 3. I'm going to watch this for a while. Hang on. There's no action in the middle of the map yet. The Broodlord's still chipping away at the 3 o'clock. Come on, buddies. Come on.
Ooh, actually, it looks like Neeb's going to be forcing an engagement here onto the Ultra Ground Army. Silky's trying to push on back, but no, he's forced to commit. The Corruptor's engaging a little bit late. The Ground Army is going to melt to this Ultra Bane, but there's just no answer to the Air Force, I don't... Actually, the Ultras survive. The Void Rays are down. The Carriers are down. It's not going to win the game, surely, but Silky gets a moral victory here.
Yeah, a moral victory, certainly. And he's going to have more army supply than Neeb will. But he's going to remax on, what, Zerglings? And I don't know about you, but Zerglings don't do super well against Photon Cannons, Shield Batteries. Really dug in Protoss positions. So we see 5 Void Rays coming out from Neeb. Are Void Rays the right choice here? Is he just doing it because he needs the DPS on the ground? Or on the air?
I think he's doing it because he doesn't have time to make Carriers or Tempests.
Right.
Like, Tempests and low numbers are very, very bad. So we see him going for 1 round of Void Rays to just have units, and now he's going back into a couple of Carriers. I feel like Silky actually missed his opportunity. I think he should have tried to pounce on the production. All the production is in the main. If he denies the production, maybe he can spiral out of control. He's got transfusions to the Ultras, but at this point, he's decided to pull back. There's no gas at this base, Silky. You mind all the gas at the base you're taking. There's like 200 gas total. That's not going to help your gas situation. Although he does have gas at the top left again. I feel like he really should have just been gung-ho and just gone in, at least with the Corruptors, to try to camp the Stargates. I think he actually had a chance to win there, but decided to pull back, which may end up costing him.
A couple Zealots going to get caught here by these Zerglings. The Zealots will stay alive for just long enough to drive... actually drive those away. Silky not going to take the fight there against 3 more Zerglings. Goodness gracious. I'll tell you, these Broodlords actually from Silky have been doing a decent job when they've been attacking. About sort of clearing Neeb out here. That's what Broodlords are obviously great at, is sieging up and clearing out this position. Unfortunately, Silky hasn't been controlling him super well at the 3 o'clock, so he's not been able to really drive Neeb back as far as he could have. And I think this is actually going to be a really powerful position for Neeb to take this fight. He's got the Mothership ready to go. He's adding on 5 more Tempests. He's got those Carriers joining the fray as well. This is going to be another standpoint for Neeb here, and if you look at the army supply, you can see that Neeb is ahead yet again in army supply after that big disastrous fight earlier on. The problem for Silky is that Neeb has a massive bank. If Silky gets cleaned out, Neeb can just, he's on what? He's only on 9 warp gates actually. So he can't like just remax on Zealots immediately, but he could get there eventually with some ground army.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really bit of an interesting position, right? I mean, I guess Silky's game plan is that if he can crush another army the same way he did last time, Neeb is not going to have enough gas to actually make more air units. I guess that's the game plan. Like, that's what I would assume the game plan is here. But the issue is going to be, there's no way that Neeb lets that happen again, is there? I mean, I didn't think there was any way he'd let that happen at the first time, but at the minute, the army composition is only 1 Viper. If that Viper goes down, that's going to be the end of the abducts for sure. There's just no gas right now. I'm sure there's a little bit more. There's 14 gas in this geyser, and 262 in this geyser. Silky, please check that geyser first. Don't build an extractor there. It's not worth it.
Well, Neeb also almost entirely out of gas. He's got 42 in his bottom right-hand side there, down to 30 now. But yeah, now Neeb's completely out of gas as well. So both of these guys are going to have to jealously hold on to their gas units here, because these might be some of the last Stargate units we see. Now, what do you think about Blink and Blink DTs coming out, or DTs rather, and Blink DTs coming out from Neeb?
I don't hate it. Generally speaking, I really like it in the late game. It's a little late. I don't think it's particularly necessary in this game. There's not really a ton of overseers. I mean, there's 4, which is a decent number, but I don't really think he necessarily needs it. But I mean, it helps keep the DTs alive a little bit, which might help with its gas. So, it's all right. I don't mind it.
Big probe attack on the Roach Warren here at the 1 o'clock. You want to pay attention to this because probes are about to take down a Roach Warren, guys. There's no response from Silky. He's not pulling any of his army back. Oh my god! Only 11 probes here. Oh, the Lings are here to drive him back. The Ling's going to try and pick these probes off, but the probes are going to surround the Lings. The Lings, 4 Lings left on the map here. 11 probes down to just 4 now. 3 probes, 2 probes. Oh, Silky saves it. The Roach Warren's still alive with 56 health, Pengy. What a save by our Zerg player. Is that good? Is that what you wanted?
That was excellent. That was fantastic, Drayton. I'm very glad that I was here to witness that. All right, so we're getting into a position. There is a chance that like, let's say Neeb overextends. Let's say Neeb loses his air army one more time. There's a good chance that this ends in a draw, because like I mean, we have queens to transfuse the ultras, so like if Silky controls well, like he would realistically be able to break through everything eventually, but there's a good chance that he just isn't able to break all of these cannons, even if he somehow takes out the army.
Sure.
That would be fun. Seeing this game again would be. I mean, I always like draws, even if it's in a game like this. It's fun to see something that doesn't happen very often. I don't think that's likely. I want to go on record so that I don't get made fun of after the fact.
Right.
I'm not saying this is going to be a draw. I'm just saying I see a universe where that happens. But for that to even be on the cards, we need to lose his entire army once again. And we have Silky going for it, but oh my god, the Ultra's running into the meat grinder. There's a lot more anti-ground this time around, and they're attacking into shield batteries. I don't think this is gonna work, Creighton. GG.